Welcome back, it's me Lou, and I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review. Today we are featuring this Marvel Avengers Thanos. So this figure is kind of old. It's dated 2018. So this was the figure line that came out when Avengers Endgame was into theaters. Um, It's 2018. Avengers Endgame is at your local cinema and at your toy stores, your Targets, your Walmarts, and whatnot. You had two different options if you wanted Avengers Endgame figures. You had the Marvel Legends, the 6-inch figures, a little bit more on the premium side. You're looking at $20 a pop. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, you had the more affordable line, which is aimed more towards kids ages 4 and up. And these are about maybe half the price, maybe about $9.99. I like this line of figures. When the previous movie came out, Avengers Infinity War, in addition to having the Marvel Legends, that movie also had a budget line. And those are about $9 also. And for me, the appeal on those figures were, for one, they were cheaper. I mean, I was still buying the Marvel Legends stuff, but it's so competitive where I live, trying to collect toys, that it's early bird catches the worm. So you have to be at the stores first thing in the morning to, if you want to be able to get a figure. There's so many collectors out where I live. And at the time, getting those Marvel Legend figures, not that it was impossible, but it was very difficult to get the ones you really wanted. If you couldn't find the figures you wanted, you had to resort to buying them online. And with the Build-A-Figure, that made it even harder because people wanted to complete it. Because I believe the figure was maybe, the Build-A-Figure was Thanos. So the appeal for me for the cheaper figures, the budget line, is that I didn't mind so much that they were a little bit smaller in scale. They're not true 6-inch figures. They're about maybe like 5.5 inch. But for me, the sculpting on the figures was superb. The articulation, while not as much as the Marvel Legends, it was decent. And I'm also a mint on card collector. And for at least the Infinity War line of figures, the packaging was beautiful. The wave assortments are great. I think there might have been initially 1 or 2 waves released at first, and it was great because you could buy like 1 or 2 waves and have almost like 75% of the cast of superheroes. Whereas if you bought the Marvel Legend ones, they didn't release all the heroes off right off the bat. You might have to wait a couple of waves down the road to get certain characters. Or worst case scenario, some figures they made in previous waves, and if you didn't get them when they first came out, you'd have to like go back and pay a secondary market price for it. So for me, the budget figures, I'm always drawn to them. As I mentioned before, I love the sculpting on them. The paint jobs, it could be hit or miss, but for the most part, it allows me to collect a nice line of action figures for a movie, and it's affordable. I'm spending half the price, and they're fun toys. I mean, that's what it comes down to. So we're going to take a look at this. This is Thanos from Avengers Endgame. And as I stated earlier, this figure is about almost 3 years old. And depending on where you live, you can actually find some of these Endgame basic figures on the shelves still. You're not going to find the main characters like Cap or Iron Man, but you might find a Chitauri Warrior. You might find a Thanos, Captain Marvel even. So looking at this package, it's alright. I prefer the Infinity War packaging. That one was awesome. It had nice red, warm colors. Looked really eye-catching. I have an entire set of the Infinity War figures, all on card. They're hanging on the wall, and they look beautiful next to each other because there's so many of them. And it's great to have every single character. These packaging for Endgame, it's alright. It's just plain white. You get alright character artwork of the figure you're buying. The window does a nice job of showcasing the figure and framing the accessory. On the back, you have beautiful character art and a quick bio. So, Thanos. The evil Thanos wields the power of the Infinity Stones to bend the universe to his will. So, yep, here is the MCU version of the Mad Titan. And I love Thanos. Confession, growing up I called him Thanos. Reading books like Silver Surfer and like the Infinity War, the Infinity Gauntlet, and whatever spin-off, Thanos was in. We called him Thanos. There was no, comic books are not audible. There's no audio. You just read the words. So, a lot of comic book characters have really wacky names. You don't really know how to pronounce it until until they make a cartoon of a comic book or a movie. So forever, I just called him Thanos. So if I slip and call him Thanos, that's just because I grew up calling him Thanos. I know in the movies they call him Thanos or I don't know. I'm just going to call him Thanos for now because I grew up calling him Thanos. All right, so this is Thanos. Let's take this out. So, here he is in his tray. Another quick confession. I already have this figure, but it's mint on card because I have a handful of the Endgame basic figures hanging on my wall on display. I don't have too many of them just because I got most of the cast with Infinity War. And with Endgame, a lot of the new superheroes, they were in that weird, like, high-tech suit that he used to, like, jump around, I don't know, time travel or whatever the hell that was. But they never made a Thanos figure for the Infinity War line. So this was, a chance to get him. So at the moment when this guy came out in 2018, the only way to get MCU Thanos figure was either the Build-A-Figure and the Build-A-Figure. It wasn't until maybe like 9 months down the road or a year later they gave us that double pack that collected all the Build-A-Figure pieces, and you got a different, I don't know, I'll show it to you later. I think I have some of those figures on hand. But for now, this was one of the budget ways you could get Thanos, and it's a beautiful sculpt. But the head bothers me a lot on this guy. Alright, so first impressions, the sculpting's beautiful. The paint application, this is where the faults of the figure start to kind of like surface. So the paint application, it's not... Right, so Thanos' armor, it has a lot of sheen, a lot of radiance and luster to it. He's the Mad Titan for a reason. He's very imposing. But when you look at this figure, the color scheme, it's very drab. Where he should be like almost like a gold, it's very plain. It's not gold at all. It's almost like a weird olive drab. He's wielding the gauntlet already. So, he's stoked on that. His head, right, so we'll go over the articulation real quick. So I know a lot of collectors are turned off by the more basic figures, but I enjoy them. Just for me, the stuff that moves, like his head, it's on a ball joint. Arms, good range of motion. Even doesn't have the bicep swivel, like at least swivel it around the elbow. He's lacking in ab crunch and waist articulation, but that's all right. I don't see Thanos doing like crunches every morning. He's not an ab guy. He's definitely a leg guy because he has some thick logs for legs, big tree trunks. This being a basic figure, his knees don't bend. You don't have any ankle movement or thigh movement. So it's a very basic figure, but if you're like me and you just want to put your figure on display, it works. If you're a kid, it works because he does everything he should do. And he's very durable. Little kids can like drop this, throw him around, and you don't have to worry about him breaking. He comes with his dual-bladed, I don't know what this is, sword or scepter. Excuse me. A little bit loose fitting in the hand, just a little, but you get in this sweet spot. It kind of clasps. It clasps right in. All right, I've done this before, and there's a reason why I say my videos are horrible. All right, I've been talking nonstop because I've been trying to film as many videos as possible, so I'm like losing my voice. So I like desperately need a glass of water right now. So I'm gonna leave this here, And you can look at it. And while you're looking at that, you can look at this, the Brickhead Thanos. You can look at my Mad Max guy. And, I don't know. Just, yeah, just sit around and look at these toys and these random things on my desk. And I'll be back like in 2 minutes. Or less. Alright, I'm back. I have a glass of water. Okay, so alright, so I've been filming all these YouTube videos because I kind of set a goal for myself. So when I started doing this seriously back in late February, I told myself the goal was I want to get 50 videos done by June. And I've accomplished that. I think I have like right now 69 videos, 69 new videos. And it's only like early May. So I've created 69 new videos, and I think I might have like 74 videos total, and it's not even June yet. So I hit my goal. So my goal right now is I told myself 100 videos by December. And I think at this rate, I want to try to hit 100 videos by June, or a little bit, even if it's a little past June or July. So I've been doing these videos nonstop. I'll film like 4 or 5 a day, and I'll lose my voice. Because I'll film these after I'm done with work or whatever, so, or in the morning before work. All right, enough about that. Let's get back to Thanos here. So when we last left off, we gave him his trusty dual-wielded, I don't know what this is, blade scepter deal. You know, maybe he uses this to shave or shave giants, or maybe you can like put it above his head and you spin his arm around. It's like helicopter action. But enough being silly. It's a decent figure. I mean, for $9, if you're a kid, I'd be stoked on it. I can see this is the kind of figure that might turn some collectors off from the basic line just because it's very basic to the word. The paint applications aren't very strong at all. The color doesn't really reflect the character well. And to make things worse, he has this dumbest facial expression. He's almost like smiling. But not even in an evil way. It just looks like he's just kind of like... It looks like he just kind of like... He had to take a dump, and then he took a dump, and now he's kind of relieved. He kind of has that kind of look on his face. But I do like this figure a lot. I like this figure a lot because I think it's cool to have a basic line version of the Mad Titan. The sculpting is beautiful. The armor is sculpted real nice. But the paint job is what hurts it. I think if this... Even if it didn't have the most premium paint job, I think if they gave the right colors, it'd scream a little bit louder on the shelves. But this is one of the figures I think that kind of peg-warmed. I think if you're a kid, there were other options for better versions of Thanos. There were always those larger, maybe like 9-inch scaled ones that talk. There's the Titan Hero ones. So you had your options, but this is an okay figure for $9. It's nowhere in the same league as buying a Marvel Legends. But if you wanted a fun desk toy, it'd be cool to have. It's decent. It's decent. If I had to rate it numerically, it's a easy 6. It's a 5 is what I consider midline. 6 is it's not above average. It's just very average, which is unfortunate because some of these basic lines for the MCU movies, when the figures fall in the $9 range, there were some real winners in there. And I'll probably go over some of those in the future. But for now, this figure, an easy 6. So since we're on the subject of the Mad Titan, I brought some friends. On the subject of budget, this is a budget figure, but this is kind of more so the color scheme that shouts out awesome. And this is nothing... I don't think you can even really call this an action figure. This is one of those impulse toys that they have at the register at Walmart. So when you could check out at Walmart at the register, you know, you look to your right. There's always that stack. You know, there's always those small stacks of bubble gum. You can buy like lighters, you know, USB battery banks, and then somewhere along those lines, you'll see like a small little shelf, and you'll see like Super Mario figures, and there'll be some Marvel ones too. They'll cover your bases. You'll have like a very basic Captain America, you know, Spider-Man and Iron Man. And if you're lucky, you might even find this guy. You might find Thanos there. And this is as basic as a figure can come. His head rotates, and his arms move. That's it. You know, it's essentially just a hollow piece of plastic. I've seen Star Wars figures that are like this also. There's a Han Solo, a Luke Skywalker, a Rey, and their legs don't move either. They just move their arms. The sculpting is decent. You get nice crisp sculpting, but these aren't premium by any means. These are really just impulse items. These are stuff that parents will buy for their little kids while they're at the toy store. I mean, or while they're checking out, and you know, if they want to buy them a toy. But the one thing I love about this figure is that, as basic as it is, I paid maybe like $4 for it, and I don't feel like I was shortchanged at all. Even though it doesn't really do anything other than move its arms and its head, it just looks pretty, you know. This one has a much better color. For half the price, this one has a much better color scheme than this guy. If this guy had this guy's color scheme, perfect. It'd be a great figure. So yeah, this is Thanos. This is the Walmart figure you could buy when you're checking out the register and you reaching over for some bubble gum or some really bad looking headphones. You'll see this guy, just grab him. Oh, let's talk scale. So, one action figure. So this is from the Endgame basic line of figures, the $9.99 figures. And also falling in that basic range was Captain America. So these exist on the same toy line, but as you can see here, this figure's scaled down so much more. If I was a child, I'd be disappointed that this guy isn't bigger, because you watch the movie and Thanos is huge. He's like twice the size of the superheroes, maybe even 3 times larger. But this, you know, this is, if you're budget, you know, if you're buying budget figures, you get budget toys, and this is unfortunate he wasn't a little bit bigger. The sculpting's decent, and then if you want to compare him to Marvel Legends, you know, completely different story altogether. Much bigger figure. It's almost like this is Thanos Jr. And, oh man. So here is the Marvel Legend Thanos from, I think this is the Infinity War one. He's pretty big. This was the Build-A-Figure, but I believe this one, they repackaged the Build-A-Figure later in a 2-pack. And this is the 2-pack version, because I believe the Build-A-Figure, it had a darker, different shade of purple. And you can see how he scales next to Cap right here. So he's a much bigger dude, and this is like this is like his little. This is like, it's like I said, this is like Thanos Jr. And then down the road they released Armored Thanos, and I think this was a Build-A-Figure also. So these are the two figures. This guy is trying to be this guy, and you could see the big difference. You had to buy, like, I think it's like 6 Marvel Legends figures just to build this. So you're looking at over $120 total just to build this one figure. Where if you just wanted Thanos and you didn't really care, you'd settle for the $9 figure like I did until I got this guy. But I got him down the road eventually. I found all the different figures to build them, and I put them together. If I had to compare them, I like this costume a lot. This version of Thanos, it's alright, but he's too armored up for me. This is the more traditional comic book look, which I'm very used to. This is home. This feels home for me. This is normal. This is getting there. It's kind of deviating a little, and this one's kind of like too much. Here's the Titan hero Thanos. I love these Titan figures. I don't buy them a whole lot. Every now and then I might buy one. They're always so reasonably priced. This guy I think is a little bit more on the not expensive side. This guy might be somewhere between $15 and $20. He's gigantic. Very limited range of motion. His head doesn't even turn because of his armor. There's a port in his back for an interactive backpack. I think that came with another figure, maybe like Iron Man or something. But he's gigantic. If you look at him, he's twice the size of this guy. But his costume's cool. And he represents, you know, this dude here. So he's sized up. This one wins in terms of the detail. He has more texture going on for him here. But this is just cool to have. I like this guy a lot. And this brings us to my favorite Thanos figure I have. I like this a lot. This is my favorite of all time. This is the Marvel Select Thanos. And this is how he looks like in some of the more recent comic books. This look might be dated by now, though, but I think this is how he looked maybe back in... there's no date here either. I want to say maybe 2016, 2017. When this first came out in the stores, this was Marvel Select. You can find this at the Disney store, and I think like FYE and other specialty stores. I think when this first came out, I think some people made the wrong assumption that this represented the MCU Thanos, the Marvel, you know, the ones from the movie. But no, this was more of a slightly more stylized, almost realistic interpretation of how he looked in the comic books. And this is great. I love this guy a lot. He has a really cool aesthetic that could easily match the movie stuff. But at the same time, his costume really evokes the more classic look. But it's just done better. You know, everything's almost, it's not one for one, but it's close. Like if you look at the stripe that runs down his torso, it's something similar but a little bit more detailed. The buckles are kind of similar, but this one's a little bit more detailed. So, you know, it takes a cue from the original design, and it takes some liberties, but this kind of embellishes everything and makes stuff look a little bit cooler. It's kind of a stiff figure. The range of movement isn't the best, but, you know, Thanos isn't a guy that's doing jumping jacks and splits. He's a very, you know, he's the Mad Titan. He's more about just commanding presence when he enters a room, so he doesn't need to, like, have all that bells and whistles of articulation. But it's awesome. My favorite Thanos figure. And on the subject of Marvel Select, oh man, we got this one, this big boy. This is the comic book version. It comes with Death. So in the comic books, Thanos is in love with Death, and he does all sorts of crazy stuff in her name. And this is nice. We get a nice picture and a bio. It says, one of the vastly powerful Eternals of Titan, Thanos was shunned as a child for his gigantic form and grotesque appearance. Wandering the galaxy, he assembled a small army of soldiers, mercenaries, and malcontents, as well as a vast arsenal of weapons of mass destruction. During his travels, Thanos encountered and fell in love with the embodiment of Death, who had assumed the form of a humanoid female. To prove himself worthy of so awesome an entity, he set out to provide his companion with what he thought she desired: the death of every living creature. So, the Infinity Gauntlet. That was a big deal in the 90s. That was a big comic book event. And it's an awesome figure. This is a figure you can take out of the box, and you can blend them, mesh them into your Marvel Legends line. I know that there's a Marvel Legends representation of this version of Thanos, but this is a bigger figure, It looks awesome. One of my favorites. And here's the Marvel Select version of the armored MCU Thanos. So it's... Where'd he go? So it's this guy, but this is the Marvel Legends one. This is the Marvel Select one that was available at Disney stores. Sculpting is better, the detail's better. I never took them out, so I couldn't really tell you about the articulation or range of motion, but it's a much bigger figure. It's really cool. I think I've seen some Chinese knockoffs of this figure too. And it's cool. This guy doesn't hold a candle to this guy at all. But it's like I said, this is a $9 basic figure. This is like a $30 to $40 toy or collectible. And that's what he looks like. Really cool. So yes, here we go. Here we go. I'm losing my voice again. All right, so here we have basic Thanos from the Endgame line. It was the budget figure. I bought it because ever since I've been playing around with those damn Mech-Strike Avenger figures, I'm like falling in love again with these like more basic action figures that are like $9. They're fun to play with. Like, I love this stuff. The Marvel Legends stuff's always great, but I feel more like a kid when I'm handling stuff that feels more like a toy than a collectible. So I gravitate towards both, but if I want to feel youthful, I like fiddling around with the stuff that feels like toys. You know, if I want to feel like an adult who's trying to be responsible yet blowing all his money on action figures, you know, I'll fiddle around with, you know, the more expensive premium stuff like this. So, I don't know. If you like this guy, you know, get him. If you just want to blow some cash or whatever, just get him. He's all right. He's not the greatest thing in the world. If you're a kid, you'd probably be all over it because it's an Avenger dude. Yeah, so just get him. I don't know. Well, once again, I just want to thank you for hanging out with me. These videos, much like my drawing videos, these things run a lot longer than I anticipate. I was looking at this figure. I'm like, hey, I'll do a review on this $9 figure. It should only take me 10 minutes. You know, here we are, what, like almost 30 minutes later? So yeah, thank you for checking this out. I hope you enjoy your day, and I'll see you again later. Take care.